Today on the Relationship Renovation podcast, we're lucky enough to have Kyle and Ariel Tresh of Couplepreneurship. They have a podcast. They're super active on social media. They are helping couples who are entrepreneurs build their businesses.
One of the biggest hurdles that so many couples, whether they're in business together or not, honestly have to go through is misaligned expectations.
Yes. What if we actually looked at our different energetic approaches to life and to business and divided up roles that way?
But also build the loving, connected relationship that they need.
When we are communicating to each other, we do not confuse our ideas with our identity.
I was going to say it's like the true calling happened and then everything lined up.
Exactly.
What do you do to support couples in maintaining that intimate connection while owning businesses together or even building their business?
There's a couple different things that have been really, really helpful. Number one is we have to create space for it.
Yeah.
So what we do with all of our entrepreneur couples is we actually have them pull out their calendar and say, okay, here's what we want to do. We want to answer the question, when does work start and when does work stop? And if we can answer that question, great. Let's map out on the calendar the block of when work starts and when work stops. And usually for us driven entrepreneurs, especially if we own multiple businesses, the idea of deciding when work stops has to be a conscious decision. Otherwise, the work never stops. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
One of our mentors says that business is kind of like a cookie monster. It'll constantly eat and eat and eat until you tell it to stop. So you have to basically take control of your schedule and your life and say, this is when it starts, this is when it stops. Once that is set aside, you can also ask the question, when do we want to actually connect as a romantic partnership? Like, how do we actually come together, whether it's going on date nights, whether it's just having time for us to connect intimately as a couple, emotionally and physically? Where does that live on the calendar? And when do we also have time for our family? Where does that live on the calendar?
Yeah.
When do we have time for ourselves, our self-care and fueling ourselves up after pouring into others throughout the day? Those four things, if we can map those out on a calendar, that is the first step of actually making time to prioritize some of the most important things of your life, which of course includes your romantic time with your partner. Beyond that though, it goes a little bit deeper. So obviously we could do this, and I'm sure you've heard the age-old advice of going on date nights, and they are powerful. Like we have inside of our client programs, we actually do date night challenges where the couples that go on the most consistent date nights every single week over a 12-week time span, we give away prizes like massage days and spa days and dinners just to keep them remembering that they can make that time for each other throughout the week. Yeah. And then if we go even deeper, now that that space is created, Ariel, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So one of the things that we've seen is that when you are together with your partner and you guys run a business together, it becomes very easy to start to see your partner as just a business partner or a roommate or somebody that you're solving problems with rather than somebody that you actually have that like spark, that chemistry, that attraction to that maybe brought you together in the first place. Right. So one of the things that we found is really fostering that attraction with each other is also important in addition to just creating the space. So one of the things that an exercise that we do with our clients a lot of the time is what we now call the attraction conversation, which is identifying what are some of those times in the past that you found your partner super attractive. Like some of those moments, like what were you doing? What were the moments that you found them very attractive? And then the next step is, okay, if you can identify the moments, what were the traits or the characteristics that your partner was displaying during those moments? Maybe it was, the moment was watching your husband playing on the floor with your kids. And maybe the trait that you found really attractive at that moment was their playfulness and like how good they were as a father. And so when you can identify those two things, then it becomes, okay, how can we actually integrate more of those traits into our life, and how can we now create the space to integrate that more often? Because when we get bogged down in the busyness of life and work and business, we oftentimes forget to just incorporate those things that make us who we are and that our partner really found attractive in the very beginning. So how can we integrate more of those things in our life in addition to just the tasks and the responsibilities that we're all carrying?
Yeah.